All praises to Yahweh, Baal Shem Yahweh Baal Shem Kodash, the honors to the elders and apostles of Great Stone. Shalom to the elect pushing this word in truth and in sincerity, with the hope of receiving mercy of Yahweh, Baal Shem Yahweh. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai is the name of his only begotten Son. The so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites, according to the prophecies that are written in the scriptures. I want to make it known that the RFID microchip is the charagma written about in Revelation 13, verse 16 on down, which is the MOTB. The miracle drug is the precursor to the MOTB. Yahweh Shai, whom dwell in what they call Jesus, is about to make his return upon the earth to deliver his elect and to pour out judgment, as it is written. So I want to jump straight into this lesson dealing with the times that we are in. So this is 2 Ezra 9, verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproar of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High speak of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world at a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginning in wonders and powerful works, and ending in effects and signs. So let's jump into these effects and signs.
Dios mío, no importa, tranquilo, ya pasó. Diosito, el cambio de clima, tranquilidad.
Hay un pequeño sismo.
Vamos a la pausa. Los daños que ocasionó el temblor. Esta casa que está aquí de construcción mixta, el semáforo que se encontraba ubicado en este momento está en la calle.
So, as you can see, another earthquake. One struck Turkey and Syria, where they over 40,000 life lost. Now another earthquake struck Ecuador and Peru, fulfilling the prophecy, earthquakes in diverse places. But the scripture also said an uproar of the people in the world. So let's see what's going on over there in South Africa.
Protests against corruption and unemployment, revolts, strikes, the government hunting down those who protest against it. The story of the Arab Spring is well known. But will history repeat itself? Have a look at what's happening on the streets of South Africa. There is a fear of mass protests. The country is bracing for a national shutdown. Protesters are ready to fight against the establishment. And it's not just South Africa. There are protests across Africa. What is leading to this unrest? Where are things headed? Our next report takes a closer look.
The South African government is tiptoeing right now. The country's third largest party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, has urged the citizens to take to the streets. It is demanding Cyril Ramaphosa's resignation over his handling of the economic situation. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has reacted to this and deployed soldiers in several cities, expecting to contain the protests. Private security companies have also been employed to help the police. But what is causing these protests? South Africa's economic growth has been continuously tumbling. The economy fell below pre-pandemic levels by the later half of 2022. Citizens are battered by high unemployment, soaring inflation, and waves of blackouts. Energy providers are also facing breakdowns and capacity shortfalls. Demonstrators have been walking on the streets with signs such as "Down with the load shedding" and "We are tired of blackouts." The EFF party has urged protesters to behave peacefully and watch out for provocators who might attempt to hijack the nationwide strikes. But what is Ramaphosa's stand amid the chaos? The South African president says that the Economic Freedom Fighters Party is pulling this stunt just to gain prominence ahead of the national elections next year. Ramaphosa's government says that people shouldn't believe in the so-called national shutdown. It went on to say that businesses will be functional and no acts of criminality will be allowed. This shows the government's confidence in stopping the people from raging on the streets. Other parts of Africa.
Let's jump into the scriptures. This is 2 Corinthians 15. I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord." So jumping down to this prophecy, this is verse 14. "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands," talking about civil unrest, civil disorder. "For there shall be sedition amongst men." What is sedition? Uprising against the authorities. "And invaded one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power." And who is their kings and princes? Their elected officials, and them prime ministers, them presidents, the mayors, them governors, you know? And these are the times that we're in. And you're going to see more of these things transpire. Right around the world right now, you're hearing it on the landmass of so-called Africa right now. But this is just not going on in the landmass of Africa. This is taking place right around the world.
Israel is on the boil again, and this time it is its own people. Look at these images. They're from Tel Aviv. Thousands of people have been protesting here for days, armed with drums, slogans, and flags. It's the same story in city after city. Jerusalem, Ramat Hasharon, Bani Barak, Haifa, you name it, almost every major Israeli city is in the grip of demonstrations. The question is why? And the answer is one man, Benjamin Netanyahu. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and in the next few minutes, we'll tell you why Israel is witnessing some of the biggest protests in its history. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, returned to Israel's top job with the country's most right-wing and religiously conservative coalition in December 2022. A coalition that wants to curb the powers of the judiciary. There is simply no other way to put it. Just look at the proposal the Netanyahu government has made. These are a series of changes to the judicial system that will upset the balance of power in the state of Israel. Let me list out the changes for you. Firstly, diminish the ability of the courts to conduct judicial reviews of basic laws. Secondly, to allow lawmakers to pass laws struck down by the Israeli high courts. Thirdly, empower lawmakers to override decisions of the Israeli Supreme Court. Fourthly, to let the lawmakers play a greater role in the appointment of Supreme Court judges, and also to grant government control over judicial appointments like that of the High Court judges. The question is this: what's the idea behind these changes? What does the Netanyahu government want to achieve?
Him say, what's the idea behind these changes? Control.
By bringing about these changes and breaking the judiciary's back. Israel's Justice Minister has offered an explanation. He He says it's because the public's faith in judiciary has plummeted to an all-time historic low. Therefore, he wants the politicians to play a greater role in the daily functioning of the judiciary. So that is the aim of these judicial changes. Allow me to quote a statement by Israel's law minister. He said, and I quote him here, "We go to the polls and vote, choose, but time after..."
Now to a story that repeats so often that it doesn't enrage us enough. But it should. It should bother us. India is being attacked on foreign soil. Indian missions are being targeted and even forced to shut down. Last week it was Brisbane. Last night it was London. This morning it was San Francisco. It's the same script playing out over and over again. Khalistanis attack Indian missions and they get away with it. India condemns and moves on. This cycle has to stop. These are terrorist elements funded by Pakistan. Does it ever occur to you that Pakistan is home to a larger Punjab than India? It has important Sikh shrines. Lahore was the seat of the Sikh empire, but the Khalistanis do not want Pakistani Punjab. They only want the Indian state. They are an extension of the Pakistani terror factory, and the West is happy to help them flourish. Why is their funding not being cut? Why are the attackers not facing action? Because of vote bank politics and Western hypocrisy on free speech. Sikhs form almost 1% of the voting population in the UK. They form more than 2% of the voting population in Canada. They have a political voice and representation, and they target India and Indians and get away with it. How would Washington respond if their embassy in India came under attack? How would London respond? And how is New Delhi responding? We'll discuss all of that, but first, look at what happened in London yesterday. The Indian High Commission was attacked. A pro-Khalistan mob surrounded the building and removed the Indian flag. You may have seen the videos. One of the staffers is being lauded for protecting the Indian flag. He was seen knocking the Khalistani flag from the hand of an attacker. And while his heroism should be appreciated, it also brings up a question. Where was the British police? What were they doing? Could they not see the attack on the Indian High Commission? Why did a diplomatic staffer have to protect the Indian flag? Why has it become such a common occurrence? In the UK, in the US, Canada, Australia, Indian missions are routinely attacked by Khalistanis. After London, the Indian consulate in San Francisco came under attack, and this too was a violent assault. The pro-Khalistani gangs were seen smashing windows and encircling the consulate staff. They vandalized the walls of the consulate and wrote "Free Amrit Pal." Now let me give you some context. The Khalistan movement is a violent secessionist insurgency. It was at its peak in the 1980s. It advocates for a new Sikh nation to be carved out of the Indian state of Punjab. The Khalistani movement has led to thousands of deaths, including, most famously, India's former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. The insurgency was stamped out in the 1980s, but it has reared its ugly head again. Indian security In France, matters are escalating fast. It's not just the thousands of tons of garbage lying on the roads. Now it's garbage cans being set on fire, and the government facing a trust vote. President Emmanuel Macron pushed his pension reform last week without a vote. Now protests against it are becoming aggressive. The challenge on the streets is just one part of it. In Parliament, 2 no-confidence motions were brought against the government today. Now Macron holds a slim majority, but he refuses to take back the reform. Our next report brings you the latest from France.
This is what Paris looked like over the weekend. Protesters are out on the streets against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform. Macron wants the French people to work for 2 more years. Presently, they retire at the age of 62. The reform raises the retirement age to 64. But the French don't like the idea of 2 more years of work. Polls suggest that an overwhelming majority oppose the pension reform, 70 to 30%. So the opposition saw an opening. 2 motions of no confidence were brought against Macron's government. These are serious motions. They could plunge a country struggling with civil strife into a political crisis. And that's the last thing France needs. More than an attempt to topple the government, the trust votes are an attempt to build pressure. Macron bypassed the parliament and pushed the pension reform without a vote. It wouldn't have passed a parliamentary vote. So the president invoked a constitutional tool called Article 49.3. And if Macron wasn't sure of getting enough votes to get the bill passed, it means all may not be well within the ruling alliance.
See what the scripture say? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And this is just the tip of the iceberg to what is coming. So going back to the scriptures, this is 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourself know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travaileth upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. Because majority of you so-called niggers, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you're not aware of what these things represent. You're not even aware that these things are going on. If you ask certain people in Jamaica about the earthquake that took place in Turkey or Syria, they're clueless. The earthquake that took place in Ecuador or Peru, they're clueless. The protests will take place right around the world, from South Africa to Israel to France to the UK. They don't have a clue about these things. Because what? They're drunken off of the philosophies of this world. So let's continue. Verse 7. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet the hope of salvation. And this is what we have here. That's why Scripture say, and that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Because of these prophecies, this is coming to pass daily. So this is edifying, and I want to say Kalalal, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Makal Kodash, Shalom.